Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our next episode of the NRG podcast, The Horse That Asked Why, and other stories. We've been left alone by Nick May yet again. Ross, what's going on?
I don't know. We've invited him to the last 6 and he hasn't turned up to one of them.
And I know he's in Norway, we're in Australia. I don't see the issue.
No. You like my yellow socks?
No.
No, they're not going to go well.
Right. We're lucky enough to have a gentleman, Ross, that you know very well. I met Sean an hour and a half ago. We went to see his farm just outside Millmerran. We didn't get to meet his wife and 2 daughters, but Natasha, Audrey and
Maggie.
Perfect. Young daughters. Beautiful farm. We saw your colt there, Aussie Cat. He's a good-looking horse. We really like that. And I'm actually going to stop now because all I know is that Sean O Hanlon from O Hanlon Equine, that's all I know about you. I'm sorry, mate. But Ross went to Longreach with you, and I'd just love to know a little more. Ross, what do you want to say about Sean?
Actually, I want to know where you've been, mate. It's only been like 20 years.
It's only been 20 years.
A bit more than that, wasn't it?
It's been 30 years.
30? Oh, geez.
It's been 34 or 5 years.
Anyway, so you came back onto my radar when I worked out what the Facebook thing was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I know that guy. Hey, that's cool stuff. And I want to know, so you're out there, you've got your quarter horses, you've got your stallion, you're in a whole different world, different horse world.
Yeah.
And I'm super intrigued by that horse world. But more importantly, can we have a run through of how you got to where you are right now?
Yeah, where'd you start?
Absolutely. I was born into a very active horse family in southeast Queensland. So my grandmother on my father's side, she showed, competed in a lot of hacks when she was younger. Her father had hunters, not as in hunts in England, but hunters that they had in Australia prior to show jumping. So that would have been in the 40s, 50s. My grandmother owned a couple of horses actually back in those days, owned a camp drafting horse and a hack called Balloonist that she was grand champion hack on at Brisbane Royal. And she owned his full brother called Grayness that was best line buck jumper at the same Brisbane Royal.
What?
So she had bucking horses and all sorts of stuff as well. And so they were part of, my father's grandfather had great hunters. Going back as far as when he used to let 6 horses go from the RNA grounds in Brisbane after the exhibition, and they would trot themselves home through Brisbane to Brookfield, to Upper Brookfield. He would pull the bridles off them at the Ekka in the 40s and 50s. Well, my dad was 10 when he was first competing at the Ekka in boy rider classes. And his grandfather would pull the bridle off 6 horses and they would find their way home to Brookfield. And when he got home a couple of days later, they'd be standing at the gate.
How far's Brookfield?
I suppose then it's probably, as the crow flies, it'd be 15 miles, something like that. Through Brisbane,
Through the city.
Yeah, well, pretty much.
Town.
To the far western suburbs,
Mate, we were talking with Terry Hall this morning and his wife Chrissy and daughter Jane. They said he reckoned that, I'm not sure what era it was, but it had to have been the 40s, I guess, 30s or 40s.
Oh, since then.
Since then, right, that they would drove their horses down to, say, Roma, maybe Mitchell. They'd let their horses go.
Not them. Other drovers.
Other drovers, yeah.
Would get all the way down to even to Gundawindi. Just because it's too expensive to take them all home. They'd let them go and they'd find their way home.
Wow.
Yeah, but not just home, to Longreach.
Wow.
That's 700 kilometres.
They'd ring up, the people that ring up and say, hey, those horses of mine come back past you yet?
Yeah, call someone along the way, Augathella or whatever. Can you believe that? 15 miles is crazy, but that is a stupidly long distance.
It's crazy.
And those ones that you're talking about are through the middle of the main city of Queensland, the capital city.
And probably worth a bit more than...
Yeah.
Maybe some old droving horses, maybe. And so, to cut a long story short too, my grandmother, funnily enough, she had a pony called Bambi. So this is kind of an interesting side note. She had a pony called Bambi when my dad was a kid. And they had some friends that lived up the road called the McIntyre family. And they had either a nephew or a young friend, a young son of friends of theirs that was disabled. And the McIntyre family used to borrow Bambi off my grandmother and give this young disabled boy a lead around on Bambi, on this pony. and what it did cognitively for that young lad. The McIntyre family started the McIntyre Centre, which is riding for the disabled in the whole world.
Wow.
From that?
From that.
That's incredible.
From a pony mare that my grandmother owned called Bambi. Yeah, so the McIntyre family were in a different walk of life, and they created the McIntyre Centre, which is riding for the disabled.
That's incredible. That's pretty cool.
Pretty cool deal, right? Yeah, it started in Brisbane. So horses were her big thing, you know, and then Dad was born into it. Like, Dad won lots of state pony club championships. Dad was second or third in the maiden draft at Beaudesert when he was 11 or 12. You know, back when the Northern Rivers was very strong, as it still is, and Southeast Queensland, very strong camp drafting district. He rodeoed a lot, so they rode bucking horses. When my grandmother died, she still had the shirts that my dad and his brother used to wear when they used to help pick up teams when they were 14 and 15, picking horses up in rodeos.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and their flash yellow and red shirts. So, because they used to buck horses out into showgrounds, right? Big arenas, so the pickup horses would get knocked up. So they'd pick the rider up, and the first thing they used to do was pull the flank, and then they'd pick the rider up, and they would hand the bucking horses over to these kids, and they'd take them back out the outgate. So he did a lot of that. He rodeoed and he camp draft, and he rode his grandfather's hunters. Jumping probably wasn't big then, but there was a lot of jumps in the hunts. So they used to jump 3 one way and then do a loop and then jump 3 hurdles coming back. And they were judged. They were judged on whether they tipped a rail or whether the back foot hit a rail, the stride between, the style, all those sorts of things. And then, so Dad went to war then. When he left school, he was called up to the National Service. He came home from war, he did some officer training, and then he got into the horse thing again really heavily. And then he went to America in the very early 70s and rode a lot of cutting horses.
Your father did? Any reason? Like, what was his thinking?
He had... So his dad died when he was very young, and probably the guy that raised him more than anybody else was a fellow called Bill Kay that was 2IC of ASIO in Australia. And Bill Kay is one of the earliest people to ever start cutting in Australia. But Bill Kay ran the Brookfield Show, which was the biggest horse show ring in Queensland outside of the RNA. He would have been involved possibly in the RNA as well. I knew Bill Kay very well when I was a kid. He died in a car crash, unfortunately, when I was about 15 or 16. And he kind of raised Dad, and he had an awful lot to do with lots of things. I think Bill Kay probably owned Blueness and Greyness, the 2 full brothers that my grandmother rode. Well, she rode one of them, not the other. But and so Dad's kind of a different vessel. He's so before his time, he blows me away. So Dad ran the very first cutting futurity ever run in Australia was at our house before I was born. And that wasn't with 3-year-olds. That was any age. It was their first year showing cutting. And that was before the NCHA was even started.
At Boona?
At Brookfield by then.
Oh, by Brookfield.
Back where he was born, Brookfield, yeah. So there had been cutting events around, but he actually ran the first cutting futurity in Australia at Brookfield, and everyone knows it. He started a horse sale there. Now, mind you, he's only 26-year-old when he's doing this, something like that.
Can you explain the word futurity, just for people that don't know?
So nowadays in most events, well, in reining in Australia, the futurity horses are 4 and 5-year-old or something like that. In the cutting futurities around the world, they're 3-year-olds.
Right.
So I don't know what the derivative of the word futurity would be, but it's got the word future in it. I guess they're finding out which one's got a future. Then as 4-year-olds, it was called a maturity. You know, whether that had to do with corner incisors coming down and so they were maturing or whatever, I'm not sure, but...
That makes sense.
And so now the 4-year-old events are called derbies across most of your cow horse disciplines.
So futurity to derbies.
Derby. And then in the cutting world, they have a 5 and 6-year-old class they call a classic challenge. And then as a 7-year-old or over, all of those horses can show in open competitions, but mostly out of your aged events, you go into the open competitions.
Thank you, because that was something I always wasn't 100% sure. I thought it was that age, but I didn't know. Thank you.
And, you know, someone smarter than me would probably say, well, a futurity year is just the horse's first year or two in competition. maybe something like that. I'm sure I get it wrong. Someone will school me on it somewhere, I'm sure.
We're always keen for feedback.
And so then in maybe 71 or 2, he started Queensland Quarter Horse Sale, the Brookfield Quarter Horse Sale, and which went on to become the Rocky Quarter Horse Sale. So he started that. He had the very first Charolais bull sale ever held in Queensland was at Mum and Dad's house. And they didn't breed Charolais bulls, but they ran a Charolais bull sale there. So he was in his 20s in those days. He was a president of the Australian Cutting Horse Association after he'd been to America. He worked for Matlock Rose for 6 months in America.
I don't know that name.
So Matlock Rose is, in the cutting world, you could liken Sinclair Hill to it in Australia. In the polo world, it's like, you're just talking about Matlock. He's one of those people who is only referred to as his first name, and everyone knows who you're talking about. And America had a handful of them. They had Buster Welch. So there was Buster, Matlock, Pat Patterson was his name. There's a number of others that we could go into, but so Dad came home from the States with some stuff that was probably pretty groundbreaking in Australia at the time. And it's funny, we were talking about someone a little bit earlier, a very dear mentor of yours, Roscoe. My dad talked about Matlock Rose like he had magic in his hands. You know, he could pick a bridle rein up and have a horse fold back through him and just throw the slack in the bridle rein and melt into the ground. And funnily enough, like Matlock Rose was kind of like my John Wayne, like my dad knew Matlock Rose. And then I got to meet Matlock Rose a number of times when I lived in America, funnily enough. And it was like, really?
Wow.
Good guy.
Yeah, he had an incredible economy on words. His nickname was Stoneface. But when he got to warm up and knew you quite well, he would open right up. Like, you guys just spent some time with someone this morning like that,
yeah,
right?
well, we were told he wasn't going to talk, and we anyway.
And it was fantastic. Like, wow. And so you know, he was a legend of the industry. He and Dad were very close. They just clicked. They just got along. And Dad would say, you know, he's heard people talk about how rough Matlock can be, and maybe he could be, but Dad never ever saw that. He didn't ever see it like that. It was never taken like that. He opened Dad's eyes to an awful lot of things. Matlock Rose was a genius. Like, one day, Dad and Matlock and his wife, Carol at the time, took 4 horses to a horse show in Madison, Wisconsin. This story has always blown me away my whole life. They took an open cutting horse, they took a yearling gelding, a yearling filly, and a yearling led colt in 3 halter classes. And these were in the days where they might have 3 days of a halter class and have a separate judge each day and place every horse in order. And if there's 100 in the class, you place them from 1 to 100. So they get to the showgrounds. Matlock walks around the showgrounds. He comes back and he says, there's a filly here can beat ours. And his wife said, what'd you do? He said, I bought her. So he bought this filly, and she said, like, for how much? And so it was 20 grand or something like that. And for some reason, that figure rings a bell. He goes, well, I bought her for 20. How much did you pay? 20 grand. So they pulled her out of the class. He wins the class with the filly he already has, and he sells her for 30. And a week later, he beats his old filly with his new filly.
I mean, that's just class.
Well, you got to know horse flesh, right?
But you got to be a bit cluey too. And you've just explained something about that guy. He's gone around and he's looked at the opposition, and he's gone, "Oh, okay, right, we're gonna have to deal with this."
Open, right? Open.
He knows horses and he's got trade.
He knows horse flesh, and he was Matlock Rose. Someone, you know, Matlock Rose offers to buy a filly. You're going to tell your family that at Christmas, you know. Did I tell you Matlock bought my filly?
Yeah.
And so Dad, you know, he did all this incredible stuff like that, and then he came home and he was president of the Australian Cutting Horse Association, and then some people in the South formed another association called the National Cutting Horse Association, of which it's still called today. Dad was like, well, this is crazy. So the NCHA didn't have any real money to speak of, and the ACHA did. And he said, what are we both pumping water out of the same dam for? So they came together and they amalgamated, and that was, you know...
what, in the 70s or something?
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to say maybe 72 or 3 or somewhere like that. Yeah, somewhere 3 or 4, somewhere in there. And then he was a convener for the NCHA for many years. Then he got on the board of the AQHA for many years, and he was president of that for many years. And then he legislated sprint racing through legislation in Queensland. He was a convener for sprint racing for 11 years in Queensland. And mind you, he's still in his 30s. Like, he just did stuff. Then we moved to the Northern Territory in 1988, maybe, late 80s. And we ended up in Darwin. We had another cattle place on the Adelaide River, south of Darwin, that was a boat depot for Austrex. Funny, you were talking about one of your friends before.
Stewie McDougall. On the boat that beat the world record of cattle into Indo.
How many on the boat? Yeah. And
24,700. But they got beaten again the next week.
Wow.
That's a lot of cattle on a boat. But anyway.
That's a lot of cattle.
Wow.
And so while he was south of Darwin, I mean, I was in the States by this stage, so it was 93. Dad started a camp draft called the Pearl of the North, which at the time was the richest camp draft in Australia in its very first year.
How much?
They had a $26,000 total purse.
Which is huge.
Back then it was huge. They had a competitor from every state in Australia in the very first year other than Tasmania.
And Dad got the sponsorship money from sponsors and...
Just put it together.
Just made it happen.
He and a publican in Darwin called Terry Dowling formed the committee and they put it on, and it was really, really big. And then they bought a hotel in Rockhampton some years later, and he started the Rocky Rush, which was basically the second big challenge in Australia. So he's taken all these things and oh, look, I haven't even scratched the surface with some of the stuff he's put together. So I was really lucky in that. I used to sit, because and I think I'm probably blessed more than anybody else. I cut my teeth under old men. And I used to sit in their house when there was only a landline, right? And you'd hear to him, and you'd hear him make these phone calls at night, and you learned how to talk to people, and you learned what he was talking about, and you took it on board. And I was really lucky like that. And it just still blows me away all the things he did. I wouldn't have done a third of that, and I'm 50-something year old.
He's got some go.
He was crazy. I mean, I could probably just keep going. He played a lot of representative football too.
League?
Rugby union at school.
Union?
Yeah.
Wow. How many kids were you?
3. I got 2 brothers, one older and one younger.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, they were more into pony club when they were young. So my grandmother, Rita, she was... The arena across the road from the showgrounds at Brookfield is named after her. She was a patron of the Show Society. She was a trustee of the Show Society, the patron of the Pony Club. She formed the Pony Club. And so both of my brothers did more Pony Club than I did. I went to school to play football and eat lunch. But I was going to be the next halfback for the Wallabies, I can tell you.
You can feel it.
I did one thing that let me down to play for international rugby when I was about 10.
Uh-oh.
I forgot to grow. So, I was that big when I left school.
So when you say that big, what's that? 4 foot?
I was 5'1", 5'2", maybe. You remember me at college. I was a midget. Kelly, Daly and I were the only 2 that come up to everybody else's elbows. I was a midget. I grew 9 inches the year I turned 19.
What?
I flew to America on the 18th of January 1993. And 15 or 16 months later, I went through the doors at Customs in Darwin Airport. And my mother was there, and she looked up and she's like, "What on earth did you eat while you were gone?"
And you said your brothers were good footballers.
Yeah, way better than me. Yeah.
But you ended up in Western Australia after that, or how'd you?
So when I was 15, another thing Mum and Dad did in partnership with some other people, they bought 1,000 square mile on the West Australian border, a place called Spirit Hill.
1,000 square miles.
How many acres is that?
640,000, right on the button.
That's a good nudge.
Yes, because of that. Yeah,
a lot of it was pretty rough, ordinary.
That was beef cattle,
sort of,
beef or sheep?
Yeah, no, all
beef.
Cattle, yeah.
How far to the biggest town?
Oh, look, only about 75 Ks into Kununurra.
Oh, okay, Kununurra. Okay,
not too bad. But across a pretty ordinary black soil road back then. We didn't have any electricity. We got radio an hour a day. There was 2 families living in a house about the size of this room.
Sorry, radio an hour a day? I don't understand. Why?
But it only seemed to work for an hour a day. We had 2 generators, big generators, but it wasn't a big place. Probably only about 280 odd thousand acres of it was grazable,
Okay.
you'd say. So we bought that off a very famous family up there called the Durack family. Okay. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Durack family. You can read a book by... So we bought it off an old fella called Reg Durack, his sister Dame Mary Durack. Dame Mary. Oh, well, I hope I don't get that wrong. Wrote a book called Kings and Grass Castles, if you ever get a chance.
Oh, I've heard about that.
It should be Lonesome Dove's story in Australia. It's mind-blowing.
What they did.
Yeah, it's too big to even go into. It's crazy. Let's do it quick. They're at Thalungra, the Durack family. Excuse me. Their dad, Patsy Durack, talked about finding out what the East Kimberley was like. So his sons literally rode from southwestern Queensland to Brisbane. They got on a boat and they sailed around the whole top of Australia. They jumped their horses off in the Bonaparte's Gulf, where the Western Australia border hits the ocean. They swam to shore. They rode all over the East Kimberley. They then rode to Perth. They got on another boat, sailed all the way back to Brisbane, rode back out to southwestern Queensland, said, "Dad, that country looks unbelievable." Then they drove 8,000 head of cattle up there.
Holy
in 2 mobs. I think 8,000. I may have told you a fib, maybe it was only 4 in 2 mobs. They get to like Mount Isa, and Patsy Durack, they found out that his mum was dying in Sydney. So he turned around and he trotted to Sydney to see her before she died, and then he turned around and trotted and caught him back up again.
Holy moly. That's Sydney Kidman sort of stuff.
Yeah. It should be a movie. So we bought the last place the Durack family owned, and there was goanna tails and root tails in the freezer.
Goanna tails.
In saying that, Reg Durack had a number of children. They're all doctors and lawyers, like incredibly well-to-do, smart, well-educated, beautiful people. Just incredible people. And I mean grew up on dirt floors. Like just crazy good. So I had ridden a lot of horses up until then, but it was just like something to do. You'd burn around and gallop here and stuff like that.
I didn't really think about what you
I didn't have the bug. And so my dad had won 3 national cutting horse titles by then. He won the first Derby in 1977 on a mare called Commander's Merit. He won Novice Horse of the Year in 1978. He won Open Horse of the Year on her in 1979.
Would they be part quarter horses those days? Or full?
No, she would have been a full quarter horse. Yeah, she was by an imported horse called Commander's Boy. Yep. And out of a mare called Bar Glow Girl that would have been out of an imported mare, I think, if I'm right.
And the people he's competing against? Would they be likely to be full quarter horse by those days?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, right. There was a number of imported horses cutting in Australia by then. Jesse James. There was a number of great cutting horse people in Australia by then. Max McTaggart, Graham Amos, of course. A number of them have passed on. So he won 3 national cutting horse titles on the same horse, a Derby and a Maturity and the Open. And I actually don't think anyone's ever done that on the same horse 3 years in a row ever since. Plus, he won many other different things in different disciplines. He did quite a bit of work in cow horse. He rode out. He played polo cross. He did some tent pegging. He rode hunters. He rode some jumpers. He shod horses during the beef slump and fed all us kids. He used to shoot 10 horses a day at $8 a horse when cows are making $15.
I remember shoeing horses for a drover coming through at Longreach for $25 a horse.
Wow.
Someone turned up at the college. Any of you guys can shoe? I'm like, yeah, I can. I did it, whipped out there, whipped them on.
Were you good?
Cool. That was terrible.
That was terrible.
Good money. You thought you'd have never another broke day.
Just a broken body.
There was about 12 horses. I thought I was rolling in it.
Yeah.
Let's go to the pub.
And so we got to Spirit Hill, and it just seemed like Dad's horses did things that nobody else's horses did. I didn't know why. I still don't really know why till today. I take a few guesses. But I said to him one night, I said, "Hey, how do you do that? I want that." And he said, "Do you really want to learn more about horses?" I went, "Yeah."
So how old are you? 16?
15 maybe,
Okay.
15. And so, 15. And so every house back then had a volume of, had a full volume of Encyclopedia Britannicas on the wall. So...
Of course they did. Yeah, of course they did.
He said, go and get the encyclopedia and learn about the horse and learn the points of the horse. So...
Oh, he went that way.
Yeah, he said, start at the beginning. Start at the beginning. Learn about the animal all you can. And so I did that. And he's an honorary life member of the AQHA, so they used to send him the Quarter Horse magazine. And our grandmother used to send us the Queensland Country Life, and I'd watch the camp draft pages or whatever was in there, you know. And then I had to go back to school and do 11 or 12, or I could go to a college. So they ran the interviews for Longreach Pastoral College, I'm going to say as a rule, in September, and it was November. And so Dad said, I'll ring R.M. Williams. So he was great friends with R.M. Williams. So I said, I'll ring R.M. and see if he can get you started.
Because they were into the cutting and stuff.
Everything. Yeah. So the very first pair of top boots that R.M. Williams ever made, he rang Dad up and said, hey, I've got this pair of top boots. Would you try them out? Dad said, would I ever? R.M. sent him one boot. Like, go figure that.
That just doesn't make sense.
It's funny. I was telling R.M. Williams' son, Mike Williams,
yeah, Mike. Yeah, he lives just here.
Just here. I was telling him that Thursday night at a meeting I had in Toowoomba with some people. And he laughed. And what I think they worked out is R.M. Williams had promised the pair of boots to somebody else as well. He's like, well, I got to split it, fellas. And, you know, my dad regrets not still having that boot, because at the time it's like, it's just one boot.
What am I going to do with it?
Collector's item. Goodness knows what it could be do today, right? And so...
That is so funny.
R.M. Williams got me an interview, and we drove down there on the 3rd of December, Monday the 3rd of December, if I remember correctly.
It's a quick turnaround.
Yeah, like 2 weeks. He got me a start, and then I went there and...
So hang on, Kununurra over to Longreach, or that's a long way.
Yeah, Dad and I drove down there.
Gibb River Road?
No, not that... No,
that far up.
Gibb River's road's way further west. It's more Halls Creek.
Right.
Yeah.
So where do you go? Straight across the Territory and...
Well, from Spirit Hill you have to go... So there's only 2 places in the Northern Territory that don't have access from their own state, and it's Spirit Hill and Lejeune. You had to go back into Western Australia and then go back into Kununurra, go south, and then basically southeast, and then back into the Territory. And then it's just... we went across the Murrumbidgee down to Three Ways, Mount Isa, Longreach. I did the interview. Dad drove home. He dropped me off at a bus in Longreach so I could go and have Christmas with some family, and worked down there with some other people, and then because it was wet season up there, and then Kenny May and John Arnold were running the horse course at Longreach College, and I travelled with Ken May at the end of first term. I just said to him one day, I said, Ken, do you do lessons and schools? Because he'd talked about doing it. And he goes, yeah, I'm doing some at Easter holidays. I said, can I sit in your passenger seat? And so I did with him in the college holidays quite a bit. I become very good friends with Ken, and I'm still incredibly close mates with John Arnold. I talk to him probably.
Ross talks about John.
Yeah, he was a big, skinny, cranky bastard, to be honest. But I hope
when did you meet James Conn and Ross Ainsley? When did you meet him?
That would have been early 1991.
So what year did you first go?
90.
All right, so the next year you met Ross.
Yeah, I was much more mature than him, of course.
Still are.
I think you've got more grey hair than me.
Hey, look out.
Yeah, you're doing
look
good.
out.
You're doing well.
Yeah. So I was really lucky to be close. Ken would have been there for your... First year.
Damien Kerr the second.
Then Damien came, yeah. So Damien came at the end of term 3 of my second year, because he took us to the Court of Sale in Rocky with Arnold.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I still talk to Arnold quite a bit. Extremely good mates. The one thing I really loved looking back about Ken May and John Arnold and Damien Kerr, they treated us 16 and 17-year-old kids like men. In that they were respectful to us. They would give us a clip under the ear if we'd earned it. But I don't ever really remember one of those 3 men belittling us like we were idiots.
Mate, you speak so well and are so articulate. Like, you're just bloody...
Brilliant.
You're a natural communicator. Well, or worked at it.
Yeah, I've done an awful lot of microphone stuff.
Yeah.
Lots.
Pay-
Not in this world, at Horse Show World.
Yeah.
As
but
in
that's-
commentary. Yeah, right.
It's the same gig. It's it's what you're saying. That you just say it so well.
No ums, no R's. It's really good. Good on you. It's not easy to do.
We'll drag you down, don't worry.
So just a quick shout out to Liam Gould from Evolution Studios. We're here in Toowoomba. We rang him. It is a public holiday. He opened for us. Liam, you're a legend. Thank you very much for doing this. And it's an hour away from your place. So also, Sean, thank you for driving an hour for us.
It's my pleasure.
So we just finished with
Ken May.
Ken May,
yeah. So Ian Francis rang me up maybe just before COVID, I'm going to say.
Who's coming on the podcast tomorrow, I might add.
Legend of the Australian working horse industry. Across all disciplines, you could put him up there with anyone that thinks they're at the top.
That's what I get. That's the feel I get. I know we're getting off topic here, but I get it.
Yeah.
I've never met the man. We've spoken to him a few times.
Yeah.
Before we did Clinton, we spoke to him, and I've always been keeping an eye. It's just someone I always wanted to go.
Good sense of humour. Loves telling jokes.
Can't wait to meet him.
Yeah.
Because we rang him from a hotel room in San Diego in October last year, and he was like, yeah. He was so good.
Very articulate as well. World class.
Can't wait.
So Ian rang me and said, look, hey, matey, I'm thinking of that. And he calls everyone matey. Hey, matey, I'm thinking of putting something together for Kenny and Johnny, Ken May and John Arnold. Anyway, and I said, count me in. What do you want to do? And so we were going to raise some money because they just thought about or had just closed down the ag colleges. Anyway, I ran it by John and he said, look, typical Arnold. He just said, look, mate, you do whatever you want to do for Ken, he said, but I don't need anything, I'm just fine. So Ian and I started putting together a few ideas regarding running a bit of a fundraiser for Ken because he had some health issues and some costs coming and he'd suffered a pretty ordinary stroke not long prior to that. And COVID shut that down. And so maybe 2 or 3 Dolbys ago, so maybe then by 2022 or 2023, Ian and I ran a function at the Dolby Stock Horse Sale. And we sat, I can't even think now, 140 or 50 odd people down to a dinner, and we ran a charity auction. I'm actually an auctioneer by trade as well. So,
okay.
Yeah. And that happened much later in life than what it should have. So I think somehow we raised like 140 or 150,000 for Ken and Anita Martin, Ken's partner at the time, yeah. And so they were a big part of my young life, Arnold and May and Damien Kerr. Damien lives at Pittsworth. We just drove 10 minutes past his house.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
It'd be good to catch
And
up
he's
with
got country in other parts of Queensland as well, like Damien's a gross overachiever, he's done some incredible things in his life too.
Gross overachiever,
He
okay.
is, yeah. He's, they're just very good at what they do. And so 1991, then 1992, in January, I joined up with a legendary horseman around Rockhampton called Graham Ward, who I had known nearly all my life. So Graham and my grandmother and Graham and my dad had been very good friends all their life. Graham's still very much alive. He'd be 86 or 7 or 8 now, still in Rocky. So Graham had spent an awful lot of time with Ray Hunt. So in the 70s, there was a couple of brothers moved out here from Idaho called the Raborses, and they moved to the Northern Territory on a big cattle station called Finnis River, Clyde and Lee Raborse, and they were outstanding reinsmen. They were really, really good reinsmen. And old Lee moved down to Queensland. He lived with Dad for a while. Then he spent quite a bit of time with Graham Ward, and he was good friends of Ray Hunt's. Lee Raborse and Ray Hunt knew each other anyway, and Lee Raborse said, Graham, you need to meet this fella I know called Ray Hunt. So along with some other people, John Stanton and some other people were involved around that era. I'm going to say 1980, maybe 81. Ray Hunt came to Queensland and other parts of Australia, I'm sure, too. And he spent a lot of time with Graham Ward, and Graham Ward is an incredible man. Graham Ward, I've never met anyone that knows more about the horse from the wither or from the elbow or the stifle down. He's an encyclopedia on horses' feet and shoeing. And I have met a 6-time world champion farrier in Grant Moon. You see Grant's stuff on Facebook, Mustad?
No.
So
Grant, yeah, I do. Is that...
So Grant Moon designed every piece of Mustad equipment there is in the world, and he's won Calgary 6 times. Graham and I have been to Grant's schools twice, and Grant Moon just loves Graham Ward because he finds someone that he can talk to on his level, you know.
On his level.
And Graham Ward married a school teacher, and Shirley taught him how to read and write, and he left school in maybe grade 5 or 6 and went droving. He's a great friend. So Graham Ward and I drove from Townsville to Fitzroy Crossing, which is right across the top of Western Australia. We went to a place called Nookenbar that's 90 k's west of Fitzroy Crossing and 90 k's south. It's down on the desert. The Aboriginal people of Nookenbar speak 4 different dialects on their one property.
Whoa.
And so we went there breaking horses in. Graham had been there for a few years on and off, and Graham travelled the whole of Northern Australia doing colt starting clinics. And I camped in the back of his gooseneck in an old swag that had dirty sheets, and he'll laugh when he hears this because he always used to get up at me for not washing my sheets. And so I spent...
Hang on, just for our listeners in England and New Zealand and stuff, colt starting means green horse starting, young
breaking in, starting young horses, under saddle, etc. Yeah. Back then, the pastoral industry companies had a thing called statutory training, and they had to spend 1% of income on training or something like that.
Training
their staff.
Oh, staff. Okay,
yeah.
Good.
And so we'd spend a fortnight at most places. Sometimes a week or 10 days. We do a shoeing school, we do a horsemanship school, we do a breaking in school. On our weekends off, we might do a school in Catherine or wherever it was. And I think we stepped into 130 or 140 horses in that 6 months. And I got to break in the manager's horse of the cattle station or whatever it was, or the tough ones, you know. And sometimes I got thrown like a rock on off one particular horse. But
what age are you now?
I'm just 18. Yeah, 18. So I turned 18 at the end of November 91. And so I started with him January 92. And then when I finished with Graham was after the Catherine show, and then Johnny Roach went to work for him, of whom his daughter is living at home at the moment for the next few days, doing some stuff, lovely family friends of ours. And I went and did a second round of mustering at Waterloo Station that was owned by an American fellow called John Quintana. And so John Quintana was the 1972 PRCA World Bull Riding Champion in America, which was a very small part of John's life, but he was a world champion in many ways. He moved to Australia in, I'm going to say, well, he came out here doing bull riding clinics in the 80s. He came out here, I'm going to say 86 or 87, and bought Waterloo Station with some other people. John became the biggest private owner of a live export company in Australia. He exported more cattle than anybody in Australia other than Elders, which is corporate owned. So John Quintana built a damn empire. He built an absolute empire. And I went to work for John, and John rode some rank cow horses in the States. John Quintana was, if you were to ever sum up what the true meaning of the word cowboy was, John Quintana, you could just show his photograph of it.
Wow.
He was a cattleman. He was highly intelligent with figures in his head. He could rope, he could ride, he could shoe a horse, he could work on a bulldozer, he could fly an aeroplane. Massive amount of hours in an aeroplane. And unfortunately, in about March of 2013, John crashed his plane leaving the Roma airport and killed himself with another fella called Charlie Marr, who was a very loved cattle agent.
Is it? That's not the flight that Terry Hall was meant to be on.
That's the flight Terry Hall was supposed to be on.
We spoke about that today.
You spoke about it
That's
today.
why he's like, I'd come and see you in New Zealand, except I'm not getting on a plane.
I'm not getting on a plane. That's right.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That was the flight?
He was supposed to be on that flight.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
They were flying to Cloncurry to meet a fella called Peter Dowling. So
to look at some cattle.
Yep. So there's a young yearling that you pointed out to me, asked him if he was by Aussie Cat today, and I said, no, he's by a different horse. He's owned by Peter Dowling, who had 2 coffees sitting at the Cloncurry airport for John Quintana and Charlie Marr to pick up, and they never made it.
So sad.
Peter Dowling wrote a poem that he said at John's funeral. So my dad and John Quintana are really good friends. My dad hosted John Quintana's funeral, emceed the entire thing. Other than the eulogy, John's son JJ did that, who flew over from America. And so Peter Dowling tipped these 2 coffees out, and the first person he rang was my dad, and the second person he rang was me. So to not go too much further into that, John was really wonderful to me, and John said, hey, what do you want to do? He put me on a bull at Catherine's show. I rodeoed a little bit. And he was pulling my bull rope at Catherine's show. I'd been doing schools with Graham Ward. And he said, God damn it, Sean, you do know I was champion of the world at this, don't you? And I was like, yeah, John. He said, well, don't embarrass me. All my friends are seeing me up here pulling your goddamn bull rope. Like, don't embarrass me. Anyway, I got on a bullock and nearly got him rode. And he said, you little round-ass bastard. Like, then I got bucked off my bull in 2 jumps. And he said, hey, Sean, you do know I was champion of the world at this. I did tell you that like 1 hour ago, right? And I went, yeah, John. He said, Sean, I'm going to give you a little advice. Grab the sharpest knife you can find and cut your goddamn bull rope up into pieces as quickly as you can.
But don't you love blunt?
Yeah,
Just
good.
give me the facts.
And I mean, he's a world champion bull rider, right? I said,
Yeah.
okay.
Take note.
He said, stick to starting them colts.
Good.
So I went back and I did some work with John then for a few months, and he said, hey, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd love to go to the States. And he said, well, I'm really good friends with Greg Ward. No relation to Graham Ward, the other fellow I talked about. And he said, why don't you just stay here and work for me? You can listen to my accent, and we ride in a horned saddle. And I said, yeah. So anyway, he got me a start at the Ward Ranch in California in January of the following year, 1993.
Where in California is that?
Tulare, California, halfway between Bakersfield and Fresno, about 3 hours, pretty much straight north of LA.
Big place?
On 99? No. Big operation. 43. And
This is 94?
This is 93, January 93 now, yeah. So it's Graham Ward and Waterloo 92 and California 93. And so I'm 19, right? I've been 19 for a couple of months. Fly there on my own. Meet John in the airport at San Francisco because I couldn't get on his plane. He and his wife were going over there to see John's kids anyway. And so I have it in my head that the Ward Ranch was 47 acres, but maybe it was only 43.
Okay, it's not very big.
And they'd run 310 head of horses there in full swing. Like, it was nothing to ride 100 there a day between Greg Ward would ride 15, John would ride 15 to 20, his son. We'd start 45 to 52-year-olds, sometimes 42. They had 150 head feedlot, half-mile race track, 2 indoor arenas, a number of houses, lots of barns.
A heap of grooms.
No? Yeah. Yeah, John and Greg always had people that saddled and unsaddled for them.
And loped them and got them ready.
And lopers and stuff like that. And there was always 3 or 4 of us that would do the breaking in.
How's your Spanish? Many of them.
What's the Spanish word for shit?
Mierda.
That.
Muy malo.
Look, I did have a couple of little things going on. I could count to 10, and I did make some friends that were
How long were you
Mexicans.
there for?
So I came home a couple of times for a month or two. I came home well over my visa in 94 and renewed it. I had what they call a B5 visa at the time, and you could go for 6 months at a time for 5 years. So I overstayed it every time. I was there for over 3.5 years, I think, over about a 4-year period.
I was in Santa Barbara, and between there and San Ynez, I think we went with Will
wow.
Young. Like, no social media, no internet, no mobiles.
You guys would have been an hour from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, not long over it. Yeah.
I went to Bakersfield because
A bit
Will Young
over
was
it.
like, let's go jump out of an aeroplane. I'm like, okay. And we went and skydived from in Bakersfield.
Wow. Yeah, well, I was 45 miles north of Bakersfield. 45 minutes, maybe. Yeah. That's crazy, you know. And I've been to San Ynez a few times since, too.
Yeah, me too. I was there last year.
So what did you learn there? What do you learn? Like, what are the keys to your learnings there?
I've never met anyone that rode a horse quite like Greg Ward, and I've still never met anyone till today.
Explain.
Greg Ward rode horses that had more feel and more heat to them than most people can handle. Greg Ward thought about the world differently. Greg Ward was a really good athlete at school. He went to Cal Poly, I think, for 7 years, never graduated. He had the handwriting of any other 7-year-old. Horrible handwriting. He was a great athlete. He used to hurdle. He used to rope calves. He used to rodeo. He loved steer wrestling, I think, and he roped calves really good. And he just loved rodeo. And Greg Ward had a presence that I haven't ever met in very many other people. He had a feel with horses that was hard to explain. Greg Ward, I don't ever recall Greg Ward ever instilling his will on anything. But I never really remember anything not getting along with Greg Ward. And one year at the Snafflebit Futurity in 1993, they moved it to Fresno at the Saleland Arena. On maybe the Wednesday or Thursday night, they had a drink at the Holiday Inn, or whatever it was across the road from the arena. And I walked in there with Greg Ward, and I was this little skinny, sandy-haired Aussie kid. And it took 10 or 15 minutes to get to the bar. Because when Greg Ward walked in the room, everyone wanted to talk to him. He'd snap necks. It was like, hey, there's Greg. Hey, Greg, come over. And he would say, hey, do you know my good friend, Sean O Hanlon? And he introduced me to everyone. I met all these people. But Greg had this way about him that was hard to describe. Greg spent time looking for things that a horse was doing well. He didn't spend much time looking for things they struggled with. So he didn't spend much time policing them. He spent more time releasing them. So his hand was really slow and his release was really early. And he made a big deal out of that, and he taught me that you have to be really careful what you make a big deal out of with a horse, because under pressure, that's what the horse will resort to, right? And I know that we all understand that, but executing it is different.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. And Greg had this incredible vagueness about him. Like Wayne Hinder, his assistant trainer, and I, so Wayne's from South Australia and he lives back over here now. Wayne spent 25 or 30 odd years there. Very dear friend of mine still today. Wayne and I used to talk about Greg, you know, and he had this vagueness about him in that if they quit paying prize money and paying training fees tomorrow, Greg would still ride a horse all day. I've heard a lot of big-time people say, yeah, they'll tell you they do it for the horse, but they do it for the money. I've met two people in my life that dead set did it for the horse, and Greg Ward was one of them. And Greg Ward won the World Rank Cow Horse Futurity 4 times before he died. So he died on the 6th of December in 1998, and on the 18th of September, he won the Rank Cow Horse Futurity by 11 points. They had to help. They helped to help him on his horse. They replaced him from his esophagus to his bottom in that year, January or maybe late the earlier year. He rode one horse all year, a stallion called Remenix Pep that he bred, and he won the Rank Cow Horse Futurity by 11 points. He was so weak getting on in the final, they had to help him on his horse. And his horses did things that horses can't do. And if you ever see any footage of Greg, you go, it just doesn't make sense. How can he make it do that? And Greg Ward lived like that, and he just did things. Understanding that a tractor rolled over on Greg Ward when he was 17, and he had a plate in the back of his head, and he had no peripheral vision out of the right side of either eye. So if he was sitting here right now, he could see Ross with his right eye, but he couldn't see Liam. Like, he couldn't see out of the right side of either eye, so his right eye only saw tunnel vision, and his left eye only saw that way.
So to the left.
Since he was 17. And if you didn't know, you wouldn't know. But you would know if you saw him walk through a mob of cows, because you'd have to look way back over his shoulder to do that, to see them if they'd left him. And Greg Ward was an awful lot of fun. He had an incredible sense of humour. And I put a thing on Facebook about the Ward Ranch one day, and this really nice fellow I met over there called Craig Ainsbury, who was a lot of fun. He'd say, the Ward Ranch, where every day was like a Saturday. And that was the mood you were in. And I remember riding horses there at 9:30 at night down to the indoor arena thinking, I'm 19 and I'm riding a full brother to Dualpep or a half brother to Dualpep, or I'm riding Master Remedy or whoever it might be, like riding some of the greatest horses in the world.
I'm tired, I've ridden 15 today, I've had enough.
Yeah, and it was like, I kind of can't believe I got to do this. And they're paying me. They paid us $150 a week. And you did 14 hours a day. He was the richest man in the world, right?
Completely.
So Greg Ward had a mare when he was 26 or 7 called Philonek. He got home one day and she's tied to the fence and she dug a hole, and she was sent there from some people in Arizona. And Greg broke her in and he borrowed $3,000 off his mother and to buy this filly, Philonek. And she was 3-year-old. So Greg then won a lot of rein cow horse competitions on her back at the biggest stock horse shows in the, I guess it was the 70s. Yeah, it had to be. And Philonek went on to win a lot of Hackamore championships in the 2 rein and the bridle. And Philonek had 10 foals in her life, and every one of them won a world title or produced a world champion.
Oh.
She's the first horse.
Wow.
She's the first horse ever inducted into the Rein Cow Horse Hall of Fame, and Greg Ward was the first guy. Or he was in the first year that they inducted anyone. There was a couple of them that year, not just him. And when she was inducted into the AQHA Hall of Fame, the guy on the microphone says Philonek was, or is considered to be, the foundation of the National Rein Cow Horse Association. She changed the world. One mare. But then, so Greg Ward, then they bred Remenek. He had Doc's Remedy, which changed the deal. They sold Doc's Remedy for over $1 million in the 80s. He produced, Greg Ward's breeding program produced Dual Pep, who went on to change the world. Dual Pep would be in the top 10 or 15 most influential cutting horse sires in the world, I would say, even today. And he bred Boomanik, that changed reining, just flat out changed the reining horse industry. One horse. He won the reining cow, the reining futurity, I'm going to say in 1991 or maybe 1992. And I rode a lot of half brothers and full brothers to these horses. The first intake of colts in 1993, 6 of the colts that I had to ride, and a lot of us rode a lot of them. They weren't just me riding them, but one horse in particular I rode for most of his 2-year-old year. Won the World Rein Cow Horse Futurity in 1994 with John Ward. Was a horse called Master Roney, who was by a Ward Ranch horse, by Master Remedy. The influence that these people had on cutting and the rein cow horse and the reining world has never been matched. So on their 43 acres, at the time that I was there, the Ward Ranch was the biggest breeders and trainers of reined cow horses and cutting horses in the world. So there was plenty of people that bred as many. They stood 6 or 7 horses there every year. There was people that bred as many and there was people that trained as many, but there was no one that bred and trained as many, not across 2 disciplines.
Well, it's just on that.
Yeah.
How many horses cross over, like, at the top level from cutting to reining?
There's been a few that did it in the early days from cutting to reining. There was a very influential sire called Smart Chickalina that won an open cutting horse title and an open reining horse title. The rein cow horse on the West Coast, like Idaho, California, Nevada, Oregon. So the California, the West Coast reined cow horse would go to the rein cow horse futurities and then go to some of the cutting futurities. Back when there was a lot more money in the cutting, so most of the horses went the cutting horse route. Nowadays, the cutting is so specialised. There's very few horses that go to the rein cow horse futurity that go cutting anymore, but there is a few that could do it.
And what's the difference? Is it the cowiness in the horse, or is it a different movement?
It's the same movement. It's judged a little. It's not judged differently, but the styles do change a little bit. I had a cramp in my leg. I love this thing. The styles do change a little bit in that most of the herd work in the rein cow horse world is in a snaffle bit, and so they can help them with 2 hands. So in the cutting horse world, a horse probably has to be a little more honest in its stops on the ends because they have to be thrown away one-handed and not steered.
Yeah.
But the other thing about it too is, so Usain Bolt probably wasn't going to make a great pentathlete or a triathlete, but he would beat them all in a sprint race.
Yeah.
He's a great athlete. But it takes a different kind of athlete to cut rein.
It's more specialised nowadays.
and run down the fence. Absolutely, yeah. And so a lot of the reining horse people, maybe since the early 90s, Todd Bergen, Bobby Avila, Todd Crawford, some other people, and they're legends of the game, they got into the cow horse world a little bit, and they lifted the style, or they changed the style of the dry work pattern in the rein cow horse world, the reining horse side of it. So the Californians, the West Coast guys, had to kind of match that a little bit. They were still really tough to beat on the cow. And then there's been some cutting horse people that have joined, like Boyd Rice and a few other people that have gone into the rein cow horse world. And Boyd Rice has won the world's greatest. He's won the rein cow horse futurity. He's born and bred Texan. Into the Rice family is like being into the Tiger Woods family of the cutting horse world. And so he then lifted the cutting side of it too. If you win the rein cow horse futurity nowadays, you're on a superstar. Pretty much you're on a superstar.
From there, who had big impacts, or who had big impacts on you?
So Greg's son, John was the backbone of the business. Greg just rode the horses. John Ward's a really intelligent fella. John Ward has won 2 world rein cow horse futurities himself. He's $1 million rider. He's probably a $2 million rider across the different disciplines. He's $1 million rider in the rein cow horse. He's nearly $1 million rider in the cutting. But I was really lucky there in early 1993 when I first got there to meet Tom Dorrance. So Greg had this great gift of...
Hang on. Just give our listeners in England and so forth.
And me. I want to know.
Give us a little bit of backstory, just a quick backstory on Tom Dorrance.
So Tom Dorrance is an incredible person. Tom Dorrance was born in 1910. I think he was the youngest of 8 kids. He grew up in a little joint called Crow Creek in Oregon. He came to the Ward Ranch each year for 2 weeks and would help start the colts.
Why?
Because Greg would pay him to make us better, because we were the custodians of Greg Ward's 2-year-olds. And Greg was busy riding everything else. And Greg and Tom Dorrance were terrific friends, and Greg used to say, or Tom said to Greg one day, Greg, I've known you for 30 years, but, even when I'm here, we never seem to spend a big heap of time together. And Greg would say, well, that's your fault, Tom. And Tom would get kind of downhearted on that. Why would you say that, Greg? He said, because I spend 10 minutes around you, Tom, and I got a headache. So Tom Dorrance had this incredible presence. Tom Dorrance is famous for having no ego. But I don't think that's correct. I think ego has a bad reputation. Ego can be good, right?
Yeah.
It's your ego. You can have good ego. That's what makes you shampoo your hair and shave your chin. You can have, that's what sets your standards. You need to have that. Maybe Tom Dorrance's ego was that he was known for having no ego. Tom Dorrance was this incredibly warm person. He was 5'5" or 6". He's a little tiny fella. And he was 83 when I first met him. And there was an incredible lady that had won a World Rein Cow Horse non-pro futurity called Jody Semper, who was a student of Greg's. She lived outside of Fresno, and Jody used to come and help break the horses in there every year and do the colt starting. And we called it colt class. And Jody and I become terrific friends, and she was really good friends with Tom. And so she would come there, and Tom Dorrance would sit in this little fold-out chair outside the round yard, and we'd have 6 unbroken horses in there, trying to saddle them up. Wayne Hinder, who was nearly 10 years older than us other kids, he would ride an older horse with a flag, and he'd shepherd us around, and we'd be trying to saddle him up, and it'd be pretty ugly. And little old Tom Dorrance would sit down beside the round pen, and he'd start talking about that loud. And he'd have these incredible little poems and little rhymes. And because you didn't want to be rude, because it's like, Tom Dorrance, you would walk over, you'd stop what you're doing, and you'd walk over the round yard, and he'd tell you these funny little ditties. He had a wicked sense of humour, and he would keep you enthralled, and then he'd say, hey, we better get back to work. Greg's not paying us just to sit here and visit all day. And so you'd turn around, and all these colts would have just let down, and they'd just be standing there. And he could see that we're about to run a rodeo, and he'd say, I might just change some things here. And he never told us what he was doing. I was probably 40 by the time I realised what he'd been doing.
Oh, my God.
He's just letting your horses breathe.
Yeah.
Suck a bit of oxygen in.
He just changed the environment.
Drop down a few revs.
Exactly. Just take the heat down, boys.
Did you ever ask Tom who he learnt from?
Yeah, a little bit. And I will get to that. Wayne Hinder and I, a few weeks after that, we got to offside Tom Dorrance for a full weekend at one of his clinics at Jody Semper's house.
What, offside mean you're his right hand?
Yeah, well, he was little and old and crippled, so we did the hands-on work, and he would tell the people about it. And it was for his 83rd birthday. We had cake for him there one lunchtime, and they had 6 horses there that had all different problems. I couldn't even tell you what they all had now. And Tom had an incredible way to look at things. He looked at things really differently. Tom would shoe a fly, he wouldn't swat it. Tom had no ambition to ever instill his will on anyone everywhere, and he probably influenced more people than anyone. I said to Tom at lunch one day, I said, Tom, what do all the great horse people you've ever met in your life have in common? And I'm 19 or 20. And he just said, empathy. I don't even know if I knew what empathy meant. I was like,
Okay.
like I was thinking he was going to say something
You
like,
couldn't Google it back then, but I'll get a dictionary.
well, I've since done that, yeah. And I was thinking he was going to say something like, oh, they had great timing, or they could stop a horse really hard, or they were great athletes, or something like that. And empathy was just having the ability to look at things from the horse's point of view, right? And really, I mean, Monty wrote a book, said about the man who listens to horses. People talk about it everywhere all the time, and they're right. They're not wrong. But how you actually execute having the ability to listen to the horse is actually just empty your thoughts and slow your motor down and watch. And Tom Dorrance could do that. People talk about Tom Dorrance having a great gift. You got to understand something. Tom never left home till he was 50. And he sold his place and he went to work on a ranch with his brother Fred in Nevada. And he stayed there for 2 or 3 weeks, and he was helping all these guys with their colts. And the man who managed or owned the ranch said, hey, Tom, maybe we need to pay you for some of this work you've been doing. And Tom just said, oh, no, you can't pay me. He said, why? He said, well, if you pay me, you can sack me. He said, at this stage, I can just come and go as I please. And Tom had an incredible way. Tom Dorrance and Ray Hunt were hard books to read in their own person. I didn't know Ray personally, ever. I've never met Ray. I had breakfast at a table beside him in a Denny's once in Red Bluff, but I knew Tom really quite well. I used to see Tom each year breaking the colts in. And I don't know if Tom Dorrance ever went to a good school and learned under a good teacher. He quite possibly did. But Tom would give you a percentage of what he was trying to give you, and you had to work the rest of it out, because then it meant more to you. And those old guys taught like that. I appreciated it at the time, but I'm 40 before it made a lot of sense to me, right? And that's okay too, and I appreciate that, but I really try hard to put things together in ways people can understand. I really try hard to give people the whole deal now.
In your schools?
Yeah, or just in my conversations and stuff. There was a time when I just used to help people for free, and I found out that
People will take it.
yeah, and they don't really appreciate it.
No.
They don't value it, And so it took me a little time to work out that if they pay for it, they appreciate it more,
Oh, 100%.
And I don't really care about the money side of it, although I do. I mean, I've got 2 kids. I have to make a living. And I don't believe being rich has ever driven me. I just don't think that's ever really got me out of bed. Could be a downfall of mine. I know my wife just shakes her head at times. But Tom was smart. Tom knew cows, he knew cattle, he knew horses, he knew mares, he knew foals, he knew how animals learned. He had an incredible way of going about him. To be honest, he was captivating. He was a really, really cool dude. And he must have been raised by wonderful people. His brother Bill is just as famous. I never met Bill. Yeah, just as famous. So Tom wrote a book called True Unity, which is really hard reading. There's another book written about Tom called More Than a Horseman, which is better reading. Well, it's more reading friendly. and it's written by other people about Tom. And then Bill Dorrance wrote a book called True Horsemanship Through Feel. It's pretty cool.
Why was Tom's book so hard to read?
To an Australian, it's in old West Coast language.
Oh.
American language. They talk different to us.
Okay.
Like they say, maybe we could go and sit and visit a while. Like, what's that mean? Or Tom would talk about, maybe one of the best things you'll ever do is learn how to present yourself to the horse in such a way that he could take on board what you're trying to get, and maybe over time you could just be there to supervise things and maybe be there to help the horse the moment it came through. And you'd be like,
there's way too many words.
Yeah, but
break it down.
Yeah, and so what happened was there's so many intelligent people. There's some people doing clinics around the world at the moment that are just geniuses, and they put together a way to word it, and they're really, really good at what they do it. But some people just took it on that really all they had to do was regurgitate stuff. I hate regurgitation. I'm guilty of doing it when I was young because I hadn't made enough mistakes, but I'd learned so much. So as you get older, you start to break things down in your own head and you start to simplify it.
Do you write stuff down a lot, Sean?
Yeah, I should have brought my book with me. It's not a book as such, but maybe 12 or 15 years ago, I just started writing down things as they came to me. Some of them are 4 lines long and some of them are a full page long, just in my handwriting.
I do notes on my phone, similar thing. I'm sure most people do that now.
Yeah, I've done some notes on my phone. Yeah. And I sort of tried really hard to make sure that if there was young people out there that wanted it like I wanted it so bad, you got no idea. Like when I went to college, there was kids in my class at college that could outride me like 1,000%. But I wanted it more than they did. Like really talented kids that had camp drafted when they were young, that had done this and done that. Dad just farmed me out. He said, well, you need to go to college, mate. I mean, Dad and I are best mates, but I wasn't going to learn how to ride well under him. I probably could have, but... and so, it really got to me in college. I'm like, wow. John Arnold and Ken May knew my dad. I'm the son of the 3, many times... national title holder in many different disciplines.
Did you feel the pressure of that?
Yeah. Not real. I don't know if you'd word it like that. More than anything, I didn't want to let my grandmother and my dad down. And in at the break and in handover, so you would have seen a video of me at college at the break and in handover, I got bucked off. Like I picked up a bag full of aluminium cans on a 44-gallon drum and my horse threw me like a rock and kicked the drum.
Which horse was it?
Oh, horse I broke in. Horrible, dirty bastard.
Well, which one was it?
It
Little
wasn't
chestnut?
owned by the college. It was a chestnut gelding, yeah.
Oh, no.
He went through the quarter horse sale a couple of months later. Threw me like a rock. Trotted 12 foot and stood there and looked at me. The dirty bugger. I mean, if he had ran away, at least I wouldn't have had to finish the course. So John Arnold showed that video to every kid to ever go through Longreach ever since.
This is not how you do it, kids.
This is not how you do it. But hey, if you want to work hard, this guy did travel the world riding horses. So I learned humility out of that. Mm. It's okay to screw up.
Yeah.
Guess what? Anyone that never has never got on very many.
It's just data, isn't it? It's just feedback.
It's just there, yeah. And so I learned an incredibly good approach from Tom Dorrance. And people talk about how Tom was gifted. And herein lies a problem. The day you think someone that you really admire is gifted, or the day someone uses a word that's bigger than the norm that you exist within, it becomes daunting to you. Like Mum and Dad's pub, a friend of mine, Andrew Martin, he was trying to wheel a girl one night, and it's just the truth, and he told her he was a petroleum distribution engineer. She's like, really? Wow, you look too young to be an engineer. He pumped fuel up at the Shell Servo on Gladstone Road in Rocky.
R. Ainsley has come up with a few of those in the day.
Yeah, but so the moment you hear those, you're like, really? So
petrol what?
Petroleum distribution engineer. He and I laughed about that at the horse sale in Toowoomba this April, May just gone. And so people do that in the horse riding world, right? They put out programs. They give things words. They make it so it seems like it's unachievable. And they did that with Tom. They turned Tom into this mystical thing. Tom used to talk about, see how quiet you can make your cues. And he'd say, sometimes see if you can make them just about this loud. And someone in the grandstand came up with horse whisperer out of it, and Tom hated that. And Robert Redford's first name in the movie, The Horse Whisperer, is Tom. And it was put together by Buck Brannaman, who was the accuracy dude on that film. Buck Brannaman's a world-class horseman. I really respect Buck Brannaman. Met him once, get along with him famously. But people talk about this mystical thing that Tom Dorrance had. Tom Dorrance had one great gift. Like his shoes are made of the same stuff. His saddles are made out of dead cows just like ours. And he had 24 hours in a day and he ate all the same food we eat. Tom Dorrance developed one great ability to see something happening before it happened. And that comes from having a wonderful power of observation and taking the time it takes to learn to notice that stuff. Tom could see something happen before it happened. And when you can do that, your timing can be beautiful. And when your timing can be beautiful and you can be early, you can make an adjustment by doing just a little tiny bit. But when you're late, you have to do a whole lot. And so all of a sudden now it's like, well, he just looks like he's won with the horse. Well, no, he's just really good at seeing what's going to happen next. That was Tom's great gift. I believe that was his great gift. But he worked on it. He developed that. He worked on his powers of observation. And one of the ways he would do it, he would just say, I wonder if this is going to happen next. By golly, it did. And often it didn't. But the more times you do it, you throw a rock at a post 10 times, you're a better chance of hitting it than if you just throw it once. So Tom would try and predict what's going to happen. I wonder if I can get that horse to trot. There it is. And he would see how little he might have to do to get that done. Like it was invisible. It was like, he's a freak. No, he just chooses to operate at that level. And the funny thing about it, when you talked about your friend when he was up in the north, Ross Clark, if you ever want to see somebody get through to a horse, watch Tom Dorrance whack one with a rope. Because they go like, wow. For that to come from him, he must have really meant it. Like when your best mate jerks you into line, you think, crap.
It means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. But when you're just loud and carry on like a chook all the time, after a while, everyone around you just tunes out.
Stop.
You know what I mean? It's just like...
Noise, white noise.
Noise. It's just noise. And you can walk into work every day and say, is she in a happy mood or is she in a bad mood? Which one turned up? See, the same Tom turned up every day. So a horse can have confidence in that. And if the barn was on fire, you'd probably want Tom running the rescue crew. Because he'd be like, Glen, you go and grab that. Ross, you go and grab that. Sean, you go and get the ute and the firefighter. And then what we'll do, boys, in 10 minutes, this thing's out. You go, well, I can go into bat with that.
Clarity, calmness.
Yeah. And so Tom had a wonderful ability to do that.
You have a wonderful ability to explain that. The communication between a horse and a rider has just been explained so well right in front of us right now.
And we've done a lot of it.
Absolutely.
That just felt so good, mate. You just said that so perfectly.
Well, I kind of took what Tom and Greg talked about. It was crazy to talk to Greg Ward about horse riding, you know. Sometimes another Texas kid there, Todd McDaniel, and Greg had explained something to us, and Todd would just say, how could he even know how to know that? And we were little kids, right? And I was like, isn't it crazy? And he used to say, you know, if you could see a baseball when it was right there, you could hit it every time. Just simplify this deal. I was like, yeah, it's kind of true. And he just had this incredible way. Greg actually loved teaching. Greg was a horrible loser. Horrible loser. Greg liked fine horsemanship more than he liked judges. And like I saw him on a mare at Fresno once, run a cow down the fence, make a pretty good turn back to the left. Cow picked him up and ran him all the way down the fence, and he hit some portable panels in the corner. I can't remember the particular mare's name. It's not I'm a Train. It's like Sister Train or something like that. And she cracked her nose open and there was bubbles of blood coming out of it. Like she hit the fence that hard. Her hind feet went under the panel.
Wow.
She blocked the cow. She was way too far down the fence. She came out of the turn. She found her feet. She never fell over. He wrapped it up and he walked back to the barn and they gave him a score. He's like, those dirty sons of bitches. Did they not see my mare goddamn try and kill herself? Like, she didn't make the final. He scratched her out of the performance, because that was the last phase. But one year he rode out of the arena at Reno and shot the 3 judges with an air gun, went bang, bang, bang when they called his score. Ooh. And they fined him and gave him a holiday for it. Yeah, he was a bad loser. The worst. He would throw his toys hard.
So you never saw Tom ride a horse?
To be honest, no. I never saw Tom Dorrance ride a horse, no.
But you've seen lots of video and stuff.
Yeah, I have seen some video. You can buy DVDs of Tom's, actually.
Have you ever watched Ross?
No.
They're they're produced by a dude called John St. Ryan, I'm going to say, who's a really interesting Englishman, I'm going to say. He lives in the States. He's quite a fine horseman, I think. Some of the recording, it's hard to hear Tom because he was so quietly spoken. And if you do listen to it, you'll go, oh, now I know why Sean thought he was hard to understand when he was so young. But now, as you get older, it makes sense. Yeah, you can read Tom's book every month till you're 30. And when you're 30, it starts making sense to you. Yeah. But I do find it quite interesting to read now. Yeah. I'm not a great reader. I fall asleep after halfway through the first page. But yeah. So Tom was really, really interesting.
Any other mentors or any other people that really made a difference to you?
I would say the 4 most influential people, or 5 of them, are my dad, Graham Ward, Greg Ward, John Ward, and Tom Dorrance. Not necessarily in that order, but that's probably the order that I met them in. My very good friend Wayne Hinder in South Australia is an exceptionally good horse person. All of those people have different qualities. I don't know if any one of them know more about the animal than my dad. He has an incredible knowledge of the animal. Maybe they all do. I would say Tom Dorrance was probably the best all-round horseman in them. Greg Ward was easily the best reinsman. Greg Ward's horses just did things. They were so light to the ground. Greg Ward taught me probably the most important thing is relaxation, because he rode those Philonic bred horses and they were so hot. They were so much horsepower. Greg Ward learned how to turn them off. And in your world, like the polo world, like if you, the speed you guys can hit, you got to have an off switch.
The speed and the length of time. Like we can be on them 15 minutes in a 7.5 minute chugger.
Wow.
Like their brains are just super important. And some people heat horses up. Some people cool them down.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're sort of born like that a little bit. You can for sure impact it and have a massive impact on it, but you get what you're given from the start.
Yeah. So Tom and Greg used to talk to me and other people about developing a beautiful way of going in your horse. And my dad's always been about that. He's way more competitive than me. Winning a world championship for me would be fine. Being a good horseman would be vastly more important to me. It's just how I am. So if I was wanting to play polo or show jump or go cutting or camp drafting, it would be important to me to develop a beautiful way of going in my horse first. So a really good friend of mine said at a clinic of mine a few years ago, Ben Healy, down at some really great people's place that I used to go to quite a bit at Hagesley. And Ben Healy said, so Sean, you're telling us that everything done with a horse prior to relaxation is the same as rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. And I was like, where did you come from? Who taught you that? I'm stealing that now. I've never heard that.
That's good.
Yeah. So this lady where I used to do this stuff at, Amanda Loy, she had this thing on the wall of a shed, and it said everything comes from and goes back. Everything good in the horse comes from and goes back to relaxation. Like, Amanda, where did you get that from? She said, you. I went, I said that one day. And Ben Healy was sitting there having a cup of coffee, and he talked about rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. And it's so true. It may look okay, but you're on a sinking ship. And for me, it's more important. Like, some days I wished I didn't cut my teeth under Terry O Hanlon, Graham Ward, Greg Ward, Tom Torrance, and John Ward, because their level of excellence was so crazy. Greg Ward could get horses to do things for him that horses didn't do. They would die for that man, but they were so light to the ground. His reins were, I don't know, they were just different. They worked a cow different. They galloped different. They stopped different. They did things. I'll show you a video of Greg Ward working Master Remedy on a cow.
Not replicatable?
I've never seen it happen since, and this video would have been made in 86 or 87. I've never seen a horse do it since. I've seen horses do great things since. And funnily enough, I think of maybe the best dressage test I've ever seen was a horse called Moorlands Tortillus on a YouTube video called Best Dressage Ever, EVA, ever. Maybe the best video I've ever seen of a horse is Merlin, the bullfighting horse.
Yeah.
You've seen him?
Seen both of those.
Yeah. Maybe the best cutting horse run I've ever seen, or the best cutting horse I've ever seen, was Master Remedy. If I think of all the great things horses do, I don't necessarily remember much about their particular style or their technique, but I remember how smooth they were. Smooth. There's something about smoothness.
Absolutely.
And Greg Ward's horses did things in a smoothest way. Greg Ward never, or very seldom, let his horses stand still. And it's funny, Greg has a reputation for having unruly horses that trot off when you get on them. And I saw a little bit of that, but Greg would say, oh, he's okay. He can walk off with me a little bit, I annoy him enough when I'm on his back. I don't need to pick on him for everything he's doing. That was Greg. Greg had this incredible ability just to get along with the horse.
And he had the horses that were a bit hot too.
Ugh. He never bound them up. He never ever held them in. They moved all the time. Like, you got to remember, the greatest heavyweight boxer of all time during his time was Muhammad Ali, and his footwork was like no one had ever seen. And Muhammad Ali did a lot of skipping. It's like being William Shakespeare and practicing writing drama. It's Muhammad Ali practiced skipping for dexterity and coordination, and he'd already been the heavyweight champion of the world. He still did it to make even himself better. Usain Bolt, I saw a training video of Usain Bolt. He taught himself to walk perfectly, and by then he was the fastest man ever recorded. And he showed this technique. He could do it for 100 meters. I can't do it right now. It's like, holy crap, the fastest man anyone's ever seen taught himself to walk perfectly.
That's interesting.
So he did all these little things. So Greg Ward kept his horses' feet moving all the time. And his horses could get out of trouble in situations that other people's horses just couldn't do, because their feet were so light to the ground. Greg Ward's horses had a great ability to get into the ground and get out of the ground with incredible balance.
Hey, just on the hot quarter horses.
Yeah.
It's not a thing that, like, most of us think of the quarter horses having great brains. Is
being
there
a little colder? Yeah.
What's that?
Being a little bit colder.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
mean? Yeah, temperament.
So there's strains or lines that are quite hot, and are they still around these days, or are they bred out, or?
Oh no, they're still there. Like, there's dual rays, that are quirky weird, quirky in a good way. The reining horse people have bred a lot of deaf horses.
What deaf?
Deaf.
What,
yeah,
through deliberately or inbreeding?
Well, there's an incredible stallion involved in the reining horse world that's deaf, and he passes it on. Yeah, so in the reining world, there's a number of very accomplished horses, like great athletes. A lot of them are bally-faced horses. A lot of them look like paint horses. Maybe they are. A lot of them are probably what they call crop-outs, have a little bit of white above the middle of their knee or their hock.
Have you heard that word before? Crop out?
No, never.
Crop out, yeah. So they would be what they call a crop out paint And for some time, I don't think crop outs were registerable in the AQHA. So the reining horse would be a little bit colder blooded than the rein cow horse and the cutting horse.
Okay.
Because the reiners get paid for being willingly guided, so they don't want to be using their bridle reins, but they don't want the horse to necessarily take over. They want to be able to put him in a big circle and leave him there. So the reining horse as such is probably colder than the West Coast cow horse. So the West Coast cow horse competition was started at the big county fairs in probably during and after the Depression, probably in the 30s. Maybe the 40s, the big stock horse fairs or the big county fairs had the big stock horse classes. Back when they used to show the gaited horses, the jumpers, the hunter, like everything at the show. And a lot of them were thoroughbred type horses. So the West Coast horse probably came from a little bit of a different bloodline to most of the cutting bred horses back in Texas. And of course, the early cutting horse was sprint bred. The early quarter horse, I should say.
We still see the sixes. It's got heaps of sprinters and cutting horses.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those horses go back to the early same horses, right? So what they did was, some of them just showed a bit more of an affinity to work a cow. So what really did work is the Texan influence with the Peppy San and the San Peppies. So the Peppy San Badgers and the Docolinas and the Smart Little Linas, their influence across the West Coast mare changed a lot of where the game is at today in the rein cow horse world for sure. And that's what Aussie Cat is. He's Texas. He's cutting horse over a rein cow horse mare.
Just tell us his breeding.
Well, he's by Metallic Cat, who Metallic Cat won something like $637,000 in the show pen. He's now, I'm going to say, an $80 or $1 million sire. The only horse to have ever produced more in progeny earnings than him would be his dad, Highbrow Cat. Metallic Cat will go around Highbrow Cat, just because there was so much more movement of semen in early breeding years.
Yep.
And so then
there was more early breeding years of that particular stallion.
Yeah, so when Metallic Cat won the cutting futurity, the next breeding season, which starts kind of February, they're like, hey, send us some. Whereas his dad, Highbrow Cat, never had the show career that Metallic Cat had. So he would have been an older horse. So his progeny would have had to go on and win before they were like, hey, I need some Highbrow Cat.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How many Metallic Cats are in Australia?
I don't know, mate. Maybe a dozen is accurate, but maybe 20 would be more accurate. There could easily be 20. Yeah.
So bimetallic?
Bimetallic Cat. And Aussie Cat is out of a mare called Black Pearl. Black Pearl won the World Rein Cow Horse Futurity the same year Metallic Cat won the cutting Futurity.
That's a good cross.
Yeah. Two world champions.
You bought 50%?
I actually wanted to do an embryo program with the Ward Ranch with Black Pearl. And John Ward said, who would you breed it to? And I'm terrific good friends with John Ward. I call him up for 10 minutes and we talk for 2 hours. And he's just a world-class fella. And he said, who would you breed it to? And I said, well, you just bred it to Metallic Cat last year. I bred it to Metallic Cat. And he said, well, I've got a foal. I said, yeah, I know. I just saw the post on Facebook like 2 weeks ago, but you told me you wanted a fortune for him the day he's born, like 12 months beforehand when they just bred her. And he said, well, why don't you buy this one? I said, because I'm not in that league. And he goes, I really want you to own this horse. I want your dad to have a Ward Ranch horse in Australia. And they've met a couple of times. And he said, hey, I'll ring you back in 2 days. He rang me back in like 2 hours and said, why don't you buy half of him?
Good idea.
I said, now you're talking. We'll leave him in the States and breed to both countries. We'll just ship some frozen semen over here. And so then they showed him at Reno. He dragged a lead. I could have shot John Ward that day, but I won't tell him that. He'll listen to this one day. He rang me up afterwards. He said, I'm really sorry, man. I said, hey,
just
that's
explain that.
He didn't change lead behind in his first lead change.
Okay.
And he's a really good leaded horse. Anyway, hey, that's horse showing. And he never quite got enough cow down the fence in Fort Worth
What does that mean?
He didn't earn enough points to make the final. He just flat out didn't final. He was really good. He's an incredible athlete. He didn't have a 3-year-old show career like we would have wanted. But then as he got to be a 4-year-old, some of the most influential horses in Australia were changing roles. Acres Destiny had just passed away. Conman, who's easily one of the great camp draft sires of all time. I'm a big fan of Conman as an individual. I just think he's one of the most exceptionally balanced horses I've seen.
1,570 progeny registered.
Oh, wow. He's worth every one of them. Yeah, I believe he's a wonderful sire. He was getting older. I think the world was looking for a great outcross for the Conman mares too, because a lot of them were getting of age, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them were now getting 12, 13, 14 years of age, and it's like, hey, their camp draft careers come to an end. They want to start breeding them. Who in the world is going to give them something they haven't had access to yet? Well, I owned half share in a metallic cat out of Black Pearl.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so in that regard, Aussie Cat's been really quite well received. You know, he's probably got 90-odd foals on the ground now. I think he bred maybe 30 the first year and 50-odd the next and 40-something last year.
So he's only been here 3 years?
He's had 3 breeding seasons, I'm going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been competing him?
21, 22, 22, 23. Maybe he's had 4. Yeah, I've shown him down the fence in some rank cow horse stuff.
Do you reckon he gets interest because he's not a little roan horse and he is a nice, good sort of brown horse
Beautiful
with a nice
colour.
front end, like a nice head
He's
and
a
neck?
lovely coated horse. He's big and fat
Yeah.
at the moment, but he's a beautifully reined horse.
Like, I can't help but be like,
Yeah,
I'd
yeah.
rather that.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I had a bunch
Absolutely.
of beautiful, nice bay mares.
And, you know, one year, a really good friend of mine that spent a lot of money for different people at the Nutrien sale in Tamworth, we talked about him a little while ago, the man that was waiting for Quintana in Cloncurry, Peter Dowling. Peter he's been an integral part of the big camp draft sale down there in Tamworth each January, February. And he goes there and buys a lot of really good horses for people. And one year the metallic cat few went through and they made 230,000 or whatever it was. And I said to him on the phone, I said, geez, the metallic cat sold really well, mate. And he goes, man alive, if someone had a bay one, you know, or something like that. I said, well,
Just so happens.
they actually happened to. And he's like, how? Where? Who? That sort of thing. And so I sent him a video on my horse. He was like, holy crap.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? Like, it makes no difference. I know it's not rational,
Yeah, yeah.
but I just still have a bias towards the colour.
Of course you do.
I mean, if a horse is good, it's good, and a good horse you'll forgive a good horse for anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But there is a gravitas towards old school, lovely bay, rich bay horse.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's what we grew up thinking that was the epitome of the horses.
Yeah.
But not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
No, they like chestnuts in Argentina.
Yeah. Okay. We've got to get on to your horsemanship.
Yeah, cool. Would love to.
We've done an hour and a half and we've just been captivated by your life so far and the people that have been your mentors and actually just the way you explain things.
First of all, you do a lot of clinics.
I have done lots and lots of them. Yeah, yeah.
And you've developed your own theories and own practices. Fill us in.
I built on a lot of the things that I'd learned. I think that people had taught me things, built a lot of things on the things that they'd learned from their mentors too.
But that's how it works.
Yeah. I don't find talking hard when the words come easy. No one does, so. And I might just say that I've spent a gazillion hours in my life thinking about training horses. Like, I don't drive down the road thinking about anything else. I don't think about anything else when I'm on the bathroom. When I'm in the bathroom, I watch Facebook on the couch and I watch horse training videos. I go to bed thinking about it. I still do it now. I don't daydream about anything else other than good horsemanship. And I've come up with some theories and I run them past Dad every now and then, and he goes, no, you don't need all that stuff. All you need is good horsemanship. I go, yeah, well, I agree with you in that, Dad, but I can't explain good horsemanship to people. I can't say the answer is just good horsemanship. You have to break it down and explain it to him. It's fine for him. But people paying me for more than that. So I wanted to always try and see if I could explain things to people better than they were explained to me. because I made a lot of bloody mistakes along the way. And I did break things down. Like one of the very first things I say at schools now is I just draw 4 lines in the sand and I say, look, I want to try and break this down for you all so you can simplify this in your head. The very first line is you got to learn about the horse. Right down to, do a foal's born with teeth or not? Right down to how many bones are there in the foot? Right down to, do they drink water prior to being weaned? Right down to how many beats are there in a walk and how many are there in a trot and how many are there in a canter? How many stomachs do they have? They have a small stomach and a large colon. Some foals are born with teeth and some foals are born without them. And a part of that first line, so find out everything you can about the animal, because then you give him a chance to show you more about him because you understand more about him. And then part of that, one of the most important parts of being a good horse person is you have to learn to coexist. You have to learn how to get along with a horse. It's actually really simple. Most of us develop techniques, and then for whatever reason, we feel compelled to instill our will on the horse. Well, it doesn't work. It works if you're happy to get about 65% of his breeding. But if you just want to get 65% out of one, buy a dumb one. Because he won't fight you.
Yeah.
But if your end goal is to help the horse reach its potential, not ours, because a horse can stop and turn around and gallop better than our hands and feet can teach him to do it all day, every day. So if it's your goal to ride a lot of horsepower and get the horse to reach its potential, you have to learn how to get along with it. So coexisting with the horse is really, really important. And here's how you instantly own 50% of that. Just be easy to get along with. Tick. You got 50% of it done. So one part of that that's really easy to do is it's very important that you're effective as a horse person, but it's more important that you learn how to wait. And so just be easy to get along with. Like if Roscoe and I are going to lunch and he says, hey, I feel like a pie. We say, I like pies, let's go and have pie. you know that person, I don't eat damn pies. I don't want. Like, here's the deal. Don't be hard work.
You're on the back foot straight
And all
away.
of us, yeah, don't be hard work. And all of a sudden it's like, well, this guy's pretty easy to get along with. So you just own 50% of that straight away. And so it's very important to be effective. And at no stage do I ever think that you just let them do what they want. That's not what good horsemanship is about. But how do we take a back seat and introduce things to the horse in such a way that he can work it out? Well, you do that with movement. Greg Ward taught me that. Greg Ward's horses walked and trotted a lot. They jogged a lot. They cantered a lot. They walked a lot. And so that's the first line, learn a lot about the horse. So Monty Roberts wrote a book about it, right? And I've met Monty a number of times. Monty used to come to Greg's and sit there while we'd start colts sometimes. In the third or fourth year I started colts, 1995 or 6, I'm going to say. He came there and he bought a horse called Peppernick's Dooley. I'm going to say 95. And Greg and I Greg won a Pacific Coast Cutting Derby on Peppernick's Dooley. And then he sold him to Monty Roberts, yeah. And so there is ways that you can listen to horses. Just stop thinking you've got to be the boss and learn how to be the leader. So one of the ways to be the leader is, the moment you walk in a room, if you've got the best manners of everyone in there, before long you become the leader. Because everyone starts to act like you, if they're worth being with, right? So everyone tries to rise. All ships try to rise on the rising tide, right? So they'll try and go. Like, if you're in a room and the language is like, F this, F that, I don't give a flying rat's, F that, blah, 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 everyone just returns to that, right? So you set the mood in the room, and the best way for a person to set the mood in the room with a horse is instill relaxation. And there's some exercises you can do that just absolutely change what a horse is thinking. Have you guys ever heard the old Indian guru called the Sad Guru?
Nope.
Incredible human being. Little old Indian dude sits with his legs crossed, sits there. He's got the big hair and the big
Fictional.
beard. Oh, no, absolutely real. Absolutely real.
When? What time frame?
Right now, today, he's traveling the world, talks to hundreds of thousands of people.
Oh,
all
I
the
know
time.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, and so everyone asks, he's a spiritual leader, right?
I use some of his analogies, actually.
Yeah,
He's
me
got
too.
Brilliant ones.
And he's all about internal engineering or something they call it. And he goes, people say to me, what is the secret to life? That's how he talks. He has this crazy inner peace.
Melodic.
Yeah. And he says, the only tangibly measurable thing you have in your life is your thoughts. It is not your house, it is not your car, it is not how fast you can run or how rich you are. The only thing that is with you your entire life is your thoughts, the quality of your thoughts. As you die, the only thing you can measure your life with is the quality of your thoughts. I'm like, holy crap, that's horsemanship, you big old Indian. And so if you can do some things that instill relaxation in the horse, you can create endorphins and not adrenaline. You can just do that with posture. Really easy. And then all of a sudden, you're changing the quality of the horse's thoughts. Then all of a sudden, you're changing your experiences. Then all of a sudden, you know what you are? You're setting the mood in the room. And the moment you're the one setting the mood in the room, you're the leader. It's that simple. And Greg Ward used to always say, good horsemanship is simple, but it's not easy. So I have done a gazillion things poorly with horses, but I'm getting to where I'm doing them better. And so the first line is really important. The second line is you've got to learn how horses learn. Imagine trying to teach something to a horse and you don't know how they learn.
Wow.
It's like, which language are we going to pick today?
Hit and miss.
Yeah. And so that's actually really quite easy to do, to learn how horses learn. You can either live at home till you're 50 like Tom Dorrance and learn from the horse and take 40 years. Or you can go and seek it from people that are trustworthy, that you think are on the horse's side. Because if you want to learn how they learn, that's what you should do. And I watched a really interesting thing that a fella called John Lyons did once. And he talked about how when you first do something with a horse for the first time, a learning horse, they'll be good at something and then they might be bad at it, and then they'll be better at it, and then they might be worse, and then they could be really quite good, and then they'll be bloody terrible. And then it comes through. And the more I've looked for that, I'm like, well, that's right. And then that, and then that, and then that, and then that. And the moment you understand that good, bad, better, worse, really quite good, bloody terrible, and then they come through as fact, it's not fiction. It's how a cow teaches a calf. It's how a mare teaches a foal. It's probably how a mother raises a child. And this can happen within 10 seconds or a minute or an hour or a day or a week or a month or a year. It just can.
You've got to allow it to happen.
Well, what happens is, Glenn, when you get to this side of the ledger, once you know it's a fact, it doesn't get you down because you go, I'm glad you got there quickly. Because the quicker you get to this side, the quicker we can get back to this side.
Well, and I assume that, if I'm reading it correctly, on that side of the ledger, it's an opportunity to reinforce or re-explain what you're trying to teach it anyway.
Yeah. And here's the one really important thing. Who we are and how we are to the horse when the horse is struggling carries the most with the horse or means the most to the horse.
100%. That's when.
Yeah.
It's just something I try to explain to everyone is at that point in time is when they sort of, there's an emotion attached to whatever the communication is, and that buries in. That sets
Absolutely.
in. It's the same with people.
Well, what it is as they mature, they go, you know what, I remember when I struggled, Ross Ainsley, and you were so good to me. And I'll never, and you'll never forget that, right? Or, yeah, I remember Ross Ainsley when I was a boy working for him. I hope he rots in hell.
Yeah.
Because of who you were and how you were to the horse when he struggled, right? It means a lot. But the other thing, so Todd Graham, I think it is, says this really cool thing that patience is not having the ability to wait. Patience is having the ability to wait in a good mood. And it's so true.
The mood is everything.
It's so true, right?
Oh, that is right.
Like, isn't it like you get to the airport, your flight's 2 hours delayed, you sit there in a bad mood, whose day have you ruined?
Yours, you idiot.
Quality of your thoughts, right? So when the horse is struggling, if you can wait it out and just say, you're okay, Brownie, I'm here for you. You're really struggling with this at the moment, but I guarantee you, my little friend, you hang around me longer, you're going to get it. I know you're going to get it because I am looking for you as you progress through this to help you. That was Greg Ward. He looked for the good coming out, and he addressed that or acknowledged it more than he policed the bad.
It's something that we've spoken about a lot. You're just looking for the opportunities to reward, because that's your opportunities to bed in, to have that release. They get because that's the real moment of learning, when they get that reward, whatever form it may take.
And you know what? There's a real danger of getting too deep in a lot of this horse training stuff, because deep becomes daunting, right? Just like the petroleum distribution engineer, when you make it too deep, it's like, I could never do that. But as soon as we simplify it and say, yeah, you can do it. It's easy. Well, it's simple. It's not always easy. It might take you a lifetime. But, and so I'm big on learning how horses learn, because I think it's really important. And then the next one is we've got to learn how to teach. So there's these 4 lines. The first one is learn how to get along with your horse. Second one is learn how they learn. Third one is learn how to teach. So taking frustrations out of teaching is a really big thing, but movement becomes your friend. So when you learn how to move a horse a lot and have it come from your seat, not begging a horse with your body. One really important thing to do when you're schooling a horse is I like to do it like I got a beer in my hand. Sunday afternoon when you got nothing left to do but feed up, it's 4 o'clock, the footy might be on that 9, dinner's cooking, whatever it might be. Might be just an easy afternoon in front of you, and I'll just have a couple of beers while I do a couple of chores. That's the mood you got to be in at 8 o'clock Monday morning too. And at Wednesday afternoon, because the horse doesn't wear a watch and he doesn't know what day of the week it is. So that's where the good hand shows up, so the same person walks in the round yard all the time. That's what Tom Dorrance could do. Tom was always the same. He was like that old Indian dude. He just had all this inner peace, and it was really kind of cool. And so I like to move horses a lot, but do it like I don't care about the result. And if I want to teach them to do a certain thing, move their horses a lot. One thing that's really, really important to do is trust the process of whatever it is that you're aiming for. When you trust the process, you'll let it take the time it takes. And
you're explaining Terry Hall right now. That's exactly what was coming out of his mouth this morning when we interviewed him, without so much thought. It was just, I just rode them. And put miles under them slowly behind the cows. Yeah. I'll trot off and do that, and then just sit in behind them again.
And even though he didn't say it, it was exactly what you're saying, which is the emotion was almost null and void. You were calm with them, and you waited to for them to learn. And
there's an awful lot in that movement, riding them. It doesn't have to be at the trot, doesn't have to be at the canter, doesn't have to be at walk. It should be at all three, and it should be variations of all three. Like, you won't do anything better than teach a horse to lengthen and shorten its stride. We should be able to teach a horse to take steps that long, like just 4 inches. And then we should be able to teach a horse to do that, because in all disciplines, maybe outside of racing, but they should think about it in racing. Yeah. Because you hear of a lot of horses getting boxed in and they can't shorten their stride and then get back out. But in all disciplines, maybe in Australia too, we mistake vertical flexion for collection, and they're not the same thing. And Greg Ward used to talk about it a lot, all through our horse's body, we asked him to go from long to short. So the barrel racing horse is long to the first drum and he's short around it. He's long to the second drum and he's short around it. The show jumper is long over a jump and then he's short when he hits the ground. The polo horse, long and short all day long. The cutting horse, long across the pen, short in the ground. Long. What we tend to do when we get bound up with technique and we want to be the boss, like obedience and horsemanship for me don't live in the same sentence. For me, it's just my take on that. I don't think it's about controlling the horse. It's certainly not about holding him in a ball. The longer you let him get, the better he can get short. You got to let him get long so he can get short. What we tend to do is hold him in a ball and ask him to get shorter. We never let him get long. So by just trotting a lot on a long, loose bridle rein and letting them just veg out and become thoughtful and all those sorts of things, here pretty quick, like I'd love to get on a polo pony for 2 days and just show you guys how I would go about getting that horse to completely empty its thoughts and just relax.
I'd love that.
So over the top line, it got really round and balanced. So its legs could swing through the air. Like the front legs obviously are suspended. They don't connect to the skeleton anywhere. But I would love to do some Greg Ward shit for you guys. And teach a horse to spin in a certain way, turn him back on a fence, and just express how simple it can be to lengthen and shorten the horse's stride and have it just weigh nothing and work with their response time and all that sort of stuff. I'd love to play around with those things. And a lot of that comes into the teaching side of it. I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole there on you. But and then the fourth thing is, see, the first three just develop a beautiful way of going in your horse. The fourth one is just put those three together towards a discipline. See, it's polo for you guys, or it's show jumping, or it's cutting, or it's dressage, or it's camp drafting, or whatever. Develop a beautiful way of going in the horse, then find a horse that physically and mentally suits your discipline, and then go towards that. What a lot of us tend to do, and it's where some of the working horse events have unfortunately got to, is we tend to forsake a lot of the first three doing the fourth. So Terry Hall and I talked once about, once upon a time, camp drafting was a sport for stockmen. It was a sport that good stockmen did. Nowadays, all you need is a checkbook, right? And I love the ACA. I've done a lot for them. Like, I've been an announcer at a lot of the national finals. I've hosted their year-end awards and their dinners and stuff like that. I love the sport of camp drafting. But all you need to do it nowadays is a checkbook.
Well, we've grown up with that in our sport.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what makes our sport so special, is that you can come in off the street and play with the best player in the world tomorrow.
Incredible.
Which is nuts. How can you contemplate doing that?
Incredible, right? Yeah. And what they did with camp drafting is they allowed a real greenhorn to go and camp draft with Terry Hall. Like, it's an incredible thing, right? But what gets forsaken sometime by the novice is the horsemanship, is that side of it. And then you find guys like you that will travel the world asking these questions. You're obviously students of fine horsemanship, right? And so you travel the world looking for it, but I don't know if you're I would say that you're the exception, not the norm, of horse people around the world. Not a lot of horse people want refinement and great horsemanship.
No, that's true.
They just want to go and burn around and do their deal. And that's okay too.
Yeah,
that doesn't make them wrong.
They want to pick the fruit. They don't want to study the roots.
Yeah. And that doesn't make them wrong, it doesn't make me right. There you go.
I like that one, Roscoe.
He's a fruit farmer.
Where did that come from? The old fruit roots.
What?
Fruit roots. Pick the fruit, study the roots. Fruit roots.
And so, it's really important to take the frustration out of it. And one way we do that is learn to move the horse's feet at a speed that we'd like, and then learn how to leave them the hell alone.
And this is the ethos of the way you coach and teach people?
Yeah, it's got an awful lot to do with it. Yeah.
Oh,
I tend to ride the whole horse behind the saddle a lot more, like the body a lot more than I just find the answers and the problems up here in the bridle reins.
One of the hardest things to teach people, that you can ride what's behind you, to work that and to feel that and to understand that.
Yeah,
I've never actually heard it said like that. You can, ride the
whole horse.
Yeah,
ride the whole horse. Yeah.
That's literally what we're doing now.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
When we're green and we're learning, in particular if our bridle reins are keeping us on, we tend to only do stuff with the bit we can see, you know. So we tend to see all the problems are in our hands and all the solutions to the problems are in our hands. Whereas I don't think that's true at all. You know, I don't think in good reinsmanship that's true at all. Yeah, riding the whole horse is way more important.
You do a clinic. How many people come to your clinics normally? Like, do you cap it at 10 or?
Yeah, somewhere around there. If I do them at home, I don't really like more than 6 or 8.
Yep.
Just because I don't have the costs of travelling and I sleep in my own bed, so I can give really, really good value at home.
Wow, they're very lucky people.
Did one on the weekend up northwest of Rocky last weekend, and there was 14 students there, I think. And they were long
Quite
days.
intensive.
Oh, yeah.
So that's 2 days?
Yeah, 2 full days. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. As early as we could get started.
Well, make sure you look at O Hanlon Equine, but let's hear about Brisbane, the Olympics.
Brisbane 32. So
just give a backstory.
I'm trying to get the horse officially recognised by the Olympic Games to be the official mascot for the 32 Olympics.
Your horse?
No.
A horse?
The horse.
Okay, cool. I've misunderstood and misread because I'd seen a bit about it and I wasn't sure what it meant.
Animal.
Brisbane has the 2032 Olympics, which Andrew Hoy wants to try and do. We've had him on our podcast. You mentioned it, and he is an unbelievable person.
I've just got to thank you, fellas. So I listened to Andrew Hoy's podcast on the Energy podcast, and I thought, holy crap, what a great Australian! Like, what a good dude. He just oozes excellence, right?
Yeah, that's
and I loved
exactly what it is.
And I loved his story. It just falls out of him, right?
Yeah.
And when you hear or meet those people, it just smacks you in the face, doesn't it? And so let's get back to my dad. So we're sitting on the veranda and stuff like that, and we start talking about, Australia's got the Olympics and stuff like that. And between us, and I'm happy to say probably mostly him, he was like, we should, Australia should honour and the horse at the 32 Olympics as the official mascot. And I was like, hell yeah, we should, bloody oath.
I'm surprised your dad hasn't got it done already with all the other stuff he's done.
Well, then I was having a cup of coffee with him, and I leave and go and do something, and then 2 days later he's like, hey, I've been thinking about what we talked about, and he's written down 2 pages of notes, and come and have a sit down with me, and we do this. And he says, now, I'm too old to probably take this on. And so I have kind of taken it on with him, and we have some incredible people in our small group.
Tell us.
Basil Nolan, the president of the Queensland and Australian Thoroughbred Breeders Association, who just exudes excellence, right? We have another fella called Steve Lyons, who's the CEO of the Gold Coast Turf Club, who used to be one part of my story I didn't get to yet is the rodeo pub we had in Rocky. He used to be our Forex rep there. And the other one is a fella called Paul Antonio, who was 41 years in council ever since the Shires amalgamated. He was the mayor of Toowoomba Council. He formed what do they call it? Something of councillors, a chamber of councillors, where all the a council of mayors, I think he called it, where all the mayors in Queensland got together with Graham Quirk, who was the mayor of Brisbane a few years ago, and Paul was his vice president in getting the Olympic bid up off the ground for Brisbane for 32. So
he's a good guy to have on.
Great guy. He's a Millmerran boy. Paul's a Millmerran man, and he's got 1,000 of the same friends as my dad. They only just met each other in the last few years, and they're the same age.
How's it looking? What are we going to do?
I spent some time.
Can we help?
Yes, I'm sure you can. I spent some time Thursday night with members of the organising committee of the Olympic Games at a deal in Toowoomba. I spoke to an incredible fella, Andrew Liveris, who is appears to be the chief executive officer of the OCOG. He lent me his ear for 5 minutes. I gave him a little bit of paperwork with some ideas that I've written down. The ideas are endless. See, and then through you guys, and I thank you again, I got Andrew Hoy's number, and I rang Andrew, and he answered the phone like that afternoon.
What a legend.
And he talked to me for 20 minutes. He didn't know me from Adam, and said, Sean, now that you've said you would do it accurately and with respect,
he's in.
He said, keep me in the loop. I would like to know things as they develop. And if you get it off the ground and it's going in a good direction, he said, I would love to lend some support.
Knew he would.
And I said, well, mate, I can see you lighting the Olympic flame off a horse in 2032. Like, we got to understand this, right? Every developed country in the world was developed a horseback.
Yeah.
Well, Ross talks about it all the time. That how many? What are they called? Quadrupeds?
There's equines. There's 130 million in the world, and only 20 million are used for sports. All the rest are workhorses. They're literally bringing people out of
poverty and feeding them. And
yeah. We lost 130,000 horses to war. Australia's pony club movement is one of the biggest in the world. We've got one of the greatest reputations as being a racing nation per capita.
Yep.
Australia spends $80 million a day gambling on thoroughbreds. And you're allowed to say it if it's the truth.
Good.
Yeah. All these things.
The thing on that gambling thing, like, I've been watching Australia just unfold. It's just phenomenal. But the thing is, it's actually just brings horses to so many people. So many people have an affiliation one way or the other through a syndicate, or they might have a bit of a punt on that. And that was what I really liked about when I went around Ireland. Everyone, even though they'd never touched the horse, they felt there was a part of them, and they knew, my best mate was a jockey, and that's growing in Australia through racing.
All of those things, the Paralympics, riding for the disabled, founded in Brisbane. It's just endless. Like, there's a cartoon made called Bluey that goes all over the world that's written by people in Brisbane about a blue dog. Have you ever seen Bluey?
Nope.
Yep.
Like, worldwide crazy famous right now. I'm going to approach those people to make a cartoon about Banjo and Matilda, a stallion and a mare.
There's just so many cool things about this. I want to know. I want to be involved. I want to help.
Well, here's how I'd love you guys. I'd love to keep you in the loop. I'm going to put it to them that why isn't there an Olympic polo carnival?
The Olympics, polo was in the Olympics back in 32. It's just too many horses. It's too hard. There's so many horses.
As part of the Olympic Games, it's too difficult.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Really?
Oh, there's so many.
We'd
horses.
love
to
it.
get that many countries involved.
Well, also, Argentina would win the top 15 medals.
On a level pegging, on a level playing ground. They're just so dominant.
Yeah, of course.
That's why the World Cup is played at a lower level than what their top team is at, which is about a third of what their top team is at.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't even get it.
Great answer. But, hey, everyone that gets behind it is going to be a part of it. I'd love to have an Olympic race meeting in Toowoomba or the Gold Coast.
We could still have an Olympic polo tournament.
Yeah, absolutely.
As part of it.
As a showcase.
As part of it, absolutely.
We definitely do that.
Well, if we end up with a race meeting in Toowoomba or the Gold Coast, there's polo fields all the way through.
Same deal.
It's Bar Desert and all those
We're
places,
there.
right? Yeah.
We're there.
We drag horses to Australia for the Olympics, all around the world for the dressage and the eventing, and which is great. And Toowoomba's hosting the equestrian events, which is kind of just really works in my favour, and that I can get the backing of this region. I'd love to see a race meeting. Imagine racing over 1,000 metres for gold, silver, bronze, and at 1,200, and at 1,600, and at 1,800, and at 2,000 metres. That's what the runners do in the track. 2-miler. That's Melbourne what the Cup. Runners do, right? They sprint 100, 200, Cup. 400, 850. Olympic Cup. Yeah. Why not?
Righto. Sean, I didn't know what to expect. I was told that you were a humble man. You're well-spoken, well-travelled, well-read. You've blown me away. I have absolutely loved meeting you. Thank you very much. Roscoe, thank you for introducing me to Sean. I can't wait to spend more time with you and learn more, because you explain stuff better than most I've ever come across.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I'm very thankful to you guys for asking me to be here. We haven't seen each other in 30 years or whatever it is. To be honest, you don't look a pound heavier or a month older.
I feel a lot different.
Make me sick. But look, as I said earlier on, the only thing I passed at school was talking, and I love. I promise you that if I have a really good day at a clinic and people leave with something, I feel so much better than
Isn't
I
it
do.
good?
Well, I actually really, really, really love teaching people and helping them.
That's
One
why I
thing-
like you so much, because I love it myself.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing Matt Sargood said. Matt said a lot of really amazing things about you, but one thing that he said that has just run through all this and stands out is a lot of people have amazing skills with horses, but to be able to communicate with the person about those amazing skills is a very, very rare trait.
Yeah.
And that's what he said about you.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was always there. I worked really hard at it on purpose.
I can tell you've worked at it because of the way you deliver it, and you're so deliberate. But anyway, to Liam, Evolution Studios, good man. Thank you so much, dude. Thanks for doing this on your day off.
Thanks, Liam.
And you're missing I don't know what you're missing, but anyway.
Thanks, mate. Thanks,
Cheers, Sean. Good
Cheers.
fun,
Thank
mate.
you very much, man.
Good on you.
Good on
It's
you,
been my
mate.
pleasure.